Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Skilled Migrant Collective Stories. Today, I am with Laura Gonzalez. She's from Colombia, Bogota. She's an art project manager, and she has been in Australia for the last 2 years and a half because she was studying a master in Monash University. Hello, Laura. How are you?
Hi, and I'm very good. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this interview.
Yeah, I am very keen to talk. We have to talk with you. We have so many topics to discuss. Also, because you have a startup called Across the Network, and I'm very keen to know what is this about. So let's start for the beginning, and tell me, Laura, how did you get here in Australia, in Melbourne?
Yeah, so the first time I came to Australia, I came to travel just as a tourist in 2016. And I was here for 6 months and I really loved it. Like I just fell in love with the country, with the people. I already have had a few Australian friends that I had met in Colombia. So they showed me around, they were very hospitable, and I just fell in love with it. I sort of created this very special connection to Australia. And then I went back to Colombia and I always kind of like wanted to come back. And when I decided that I wanted to do my master's degree, I started researching and I found out the course that I did, which I really liked. And so I just decided, all right, I'm going to come back to Australia and study there. And that's what brought me back in 2019. And now I've been here for 2.5 years.
Oh wow! And well, tell me how was your experience studying a master's in your area? Because you are how we can translate your degree in Colombia?
How do I translate my Australian degree or my?
No, your Colombian one.
Yeah, so in Colombia, I actually I studied art history. I'm an art historian, and I also studied fine arts. And for many years, for around 7 years in Colombia, I was working like as an art projects manager. We have a term in Spanish that's called gestora cultural. Maybe it's like an umbrella term, and it just covers a lot of you wear many different hats, sorry. And so, but in the English language, and I think what I've come to realize is that in Australia, there's not such thing. Like roles tend to be a lot more specific. And then the course that I did, my master's, which is called, it was Mastering Research of Cultural and Creative Industries. Is actually very broad as well, because the creative industries are many industries. So then I realized like, oh, I'm going to be in the same spot that like here you sort of have to be very specialized, and even to apply for jobs and stuff, there's still like very particular roles that you need to fill. And so it's challenging in that way because I don't see myself either as this or that, but like my skill set is very broad, and so is my professional experience.
And how was your experience studying the master with your classmates, with your teachers, in the working area? Because I know you already worked when you were a student. So how was that?
It was great. I mean, obviously at the beginning it is a bit challenging because it always takes a bit of time for you to sort of like understand everything about how the university works, how assignments work, how things are graded, like all these type of things. Of course, when you're doing a master's degree as well, there's a lot more freedom in a way in the things that you want to work on, that you want to research, and like your interest. And you do have to make a bigger effort, I feel, to connect with people, make friends, try to connect with your teachers, that sort of thing. So I think my first semester, I felt a bit like alone. I'm not very shy, but in my master's degree, there was a lot of shy people. It was mainly like, I'm going to say 95% international students. So it was a bit, I found it a bit hard. So I obviously, went straight to the Latin Americans like, hi, I think you speak Spanish or Portuguese. Do you want to be my friend? But it was really good. I did made a really big effort to try to connect to my teachers and sort of like build relationships with them. I think that's pretty key, because then, you can use them in for support. Like that's what they're there for. So I remember, going a lot to my teachers' offices, like in consultation hours, and being like, hi, I want to get a job, help me, what do I do, this and that. Or like, I'm struggling with this, and everyone would always be really, really supportive. And during my first year of uni, I got a job at Monash. It was a really cool job. It was called Global Professional Communicator, and it was with side of Monash called English Connect that helps international students with their English skills. So I had to do workshops and like facilitate one-on-one consultations with international students that wanted to work on their English speaking skills and on their academic English skills. And this job like opened the door for me to get 2 more other jobs within the university. And that's something that was really good and that really helped me. First of all, because financially, like it really gave me a bit of stability. I used to work before that job. I got a job as a retail sales assistant at a clothing shop. And, that was fun and it was good and stuff. But I realized a friend of mine made me realize I was being underpaid. And I was underpaid on that role for like 8 months, and I had to get a lawyer, and it got nasty, and it was just like a very, disencouraging experience. And then when I was working at university, it was like the complete opposite. And it also made me, so it was like really good pay. It was a really secure job. I had a lot of benefits. There was a lot of support. It made me like feel a lot more part of my community, meet more people in the university, like be more involved. So I think that really, really helped me. But all of that sort of like went off the board as soon as I graduated.
No, how much was the money per hour there?
It was really good. So I was getting paid the contract. It was $46.5 an hour, I believe, which was
Being
amazing.
as a student.
As a student, yeah.
Oh my
So that's something
goodness.
that like, as an advice, anyone who studies in a university in Australia, I think it's mainly universities, they do make an effort to support international students and to really have an area in which they can be employed. It's usually working with other international students and so on. And they're very, it's not that they're hard to get jobs, but a lot of people obviously want them because that universities pay really well and there's all this support around the jobs. But it's definitely something that it's really worth looking into, because it can also give you like a first, job experience in Australia, which is what you want for when you're looking for jobs. Because when I started looking for jobs here, I obviously, my background back in Colombia, I was working for art organizations, art museums and all these. So I went, try to dive straight into working at NGV or like big organizations like that. And, my CV in Colombia is impressive, and it's really, structured, and I have a big network, but then showing it here is like people might not know these organizations or these museums. Like it loses a lot of value. It doesn't translate. So you do really need like the work experience in Australia in order for you to get like your references as well that they ask for. So really that job at my university like really opened a lot of doors for me.
What kind of doors it's open after the studies?
Yeah, so one of the other jobs, I ended up, by the time I graduated, I had 3 jobs at Monash, which was pretty good. I had to work, I could only work like 20, the legal 20 hours. They're very strict with all of that in university, obviously. And but one of those jobs I ended up getting was as an academic English tutor for MATA, which is the School of Arts and Design at Monash. And I was tutoring a few classes that had to do with the art history, design portfolio, and the I'm sorry, just units that had a lot more to do with my experience and with what I was interested in. And from that experience, I did ended up landing an internship. It was an unpaid internship, but it really also like really helped me understand a lot about how art centers, this one in particular was with a um, project that does consultation for Aboriginal art centers. So it really like, it was a great learning experience. And to this day, after that internship, the woman who runs this business, she's like my number one reference, and she's amazing. And I still talk to her, like I follow up on her projects quite a bit, and like she also thought like it has been very supportive of me. So I think that that was a massive door that was open in that sense.
Great. So thinking in your non-skill experience working in Australia and also your professional experience working in Australia, what do you think are the barriers that migrants face when they want to improve their working situation or maybe work in their areas, their professional areas?
Yeah, there are many. I feel like the first one, as I've mentioned, is that maybe our experience where we come from doesn't necessarily translate as well to a new working environment, perhaps because on your CV, like, new recruiters in Australia, they won't necessarily know the places where you used to work back at home, or like the value that your previous work experience has. I think that's one of them. Another one would be that as migrants, and especially those of us who come in as temporary visa holders, maybe as international students and such, is very difficult to get, like office jobs, let's call them office jobs, or like skilled jobs, because many businesses just don't hire people and don't hire temporary visa holders. It might have to do with a thing that they want people that can commit to a certain amount of time, and if you have a visa, it means that there's a limit to how much you can work, how long you can work for, how long your contract can be. So sometimes employers just don't want to they don't want to go through that. They just are better off just hiring a permanent resident or an Australian or whatever. So I think the visa thing really becomes a barrier. And then also I think another barrier, honestly, it has to do with some xenophobia and racism. Like it just happens. You see it, it's something that people are uncomfortable speaking about, and that it might not be as on the surface, but at the end of the day, I've seen it in some cases as well, where I've gotten interviews and things, and at the end of the day, for many reasons, I haven't gotten the job, and I come to realize that an Australian did, or so on. So I think it's something that does happen. It is a reality. It might not be the reason why you don't get every single job. Like obviously there's lots of organizations right now that do support migrant workers, that do provide a lot of resources, that do employ, etc. But it's not the majority, sadly.
So can I ask if do you think Aussie society is prepared to receive professional migration? Because I have the feeling that, well, they receive a lot of professional migration, but specifically with Latin people, I think we have like a stereotype about non-skilled jobs. So when you talk about racism, make me think about that, about this stereotype that, well, maybe Latin people, well, you've seen more people, maybe it's more obvious, working in hospitality or in cleaning jobs or in babysitter or nanny jobs. So I have this feeling. Is the Aussie society prepared for professional migration, like in all their colors and all their languages and all their shapes?
Yeah. Listen, I think there's a big change. There's a big turning being made right now.
Mm-hmm.
And every not every day, okay, that's an exaggeration, but more often than not, I'm seeing more and more organizations, more and more projects that really promote multiculturalism in the workplace, that promote diversity, that promote inclusion, that are powered by Australians and that are supported by the Australian government or by different like political bodies and policy bodies. So I think the wheel is turning a little bit, but I think there's also, it's very complicated because I think we as Latin Americans, you know, either by necessity or also just by, you know, whatever reason, we kind of like feed into this. So many people just, and it's happened to me, like I've, you know, I've worked as a bartender here at a Mexican restaurant, shaking margaritas nonstop every night, you know, for about 8 months. And it was a job that made me very comfortable. Like at the end of the day, you know, it was easy, it was decent money. I had friends, I was having heaps of fun. I got used to the late nights and so on. And I sort of like stopped looking for jobs and stopped doing things because I was just comfortable. So I think in a way, sometimes we like shoot ourselves in the foot, to say it, you know, like that. And maybe we would, you know, arrive in the country after applying for some jobs, maybe getting frustrated, and you'll be like, oh, you know, your friend gets you a job as a nanny or a restaurant or cleaning or whatever. And then like time goes by and you're like, damn, I've been doing this for a while.
Yeah,
And
so
it becomes like your thing, and you sort of like stop looking and stop like, you know, aiming higher for the things that you really want to do. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think we have very high barriers which are difficult. I think that I see the government and different like governmental bodies making those little changes, but I also see a lot of the community sort of like, I don't know, just not like just being too, you know, just having this mentality of it is what it is. So like, you know, I'm better off, you know, getting the money because we need it to survive. It's expensive for us, especially Latin Americans, to live in Australia. And then we just, you know, feed that beast kind of think of like, and you know, I think everyone knows, and Australians know, that we Latin Americans are very hard workers and that we're very committed people. And I think in those jobs we might be, you know, we have high value, but at the end of the day, they're jobs where you're never really going to progress. You're never going to, you know, you're just going to be stuck in it for a very long time.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what happened with us. Then we got stuck at some point, and I met a lot of Latin people, and they have been working like three, 4 or 5 years in these non-skilled areas, but they are awesome people. They have an amazing background. They have experience in their areas, and they could be given a chance here because well, as you said, maybe it's the comfort zone, the main rock bottom that no one wants to just go through that. And also, yeah, as you said, maybe it's priorities, because live here is expensive. We don't have any support network. I mean, in our countries, if you can, in the worst case, come back to live with your parents, but here you don't have anyone. But yeah, this is interesting. For this reason, I consider really, really valuable the thing that you are doing with Across the Network. Can you tell us more about it? Because one of the points that we talked before, it was the comfort zone and the network, the both factors that you propose, that you think are the main elements that don't let us sometimes to dream or chase our dreams or plans. Yeah, so what is Across the Network?
Yeah, so Across the Network is a platform that I just launched maybe a month and a half ago. It's very, very new still. But the idea is it's a platform that wants to connect people who work in the creative industries that have a migrant background. So with working within the creative industries, the thing about the creative industries is that there's usually a lot more demand for jobs than there is offer. And there's also, jobs tend to be a lot more volatile. They tend to be, there's a lot more instability regarding pay scales, regarding time. There's a lot of freelancing within the creative industries. So the thing is, like, the creative industries has this whole culture of like hustling, right? And being like an entrepreneur and sort of like coming up with your own projects. And because in the creative industries, obviously most of the people that work in them, they're very creative. But that also means that they do rely a lot in networking, right? So usually, and that happens not only in Australia, but it's a thing around the world. Like, even for me, in my experience in Colombia, like the way I've built my career has always been more often than not through referrals, through already being involved, although, being known for doing a certain project, and then someone would invite me to do another project. So the network is a really, really core part of the creative industries. And after studying my degree, meeting many people that work in creative industries, being a creative myself and finding it so challenging to, break into the industry, I thought, wow, there really needs to be, I saw there was like a hole, right? And there really needs to be a place where I wanted for myself to connect with more people that were migrants and creatives. So like to share stories, to share experiences, kind of like what happens with Migrant Women Collective, because I think we can also get so much from, there's so much learning from other people's already experience and their tips and like their insight. So I wanted that. And I also thought, all right, I graduated my degree. I haven't been able to have found a proper job in my industry. I was going a bit crazy with my hospitality job. So I said, I have all this new knowledge, all these new skills. How can I share them? How can I share my knowledge? How can I make recommendations? How can I be that connector between two people? I want to give something back and to just be a point of support as well. So that's how Costa Network came to life. It's been a slow process. It's been something that I've been doing very intuitively. But I think it's been working really well, and it's been fun. And every day I see like the, more people that come to me, or more people that I engage with, or that follow the accounts and so on, or like the good feedback that I'm getting. There truly is a need, and we're all facing very similar challenges. So why not get together and say, all right, what can we do, or how can we think about it, or how can we grow our networks and sort of like facilitate, making connections with people that come from similar backgrounds, that have similar experiences, that maybe have tips and tricks to help lower those barriers that we migrants have.
And what kind of people can reach this platform? With which background? Like an artist background, or just migrants in general?
Yeah, I mean, the focus, I would say migrants in general, like everyone is welcome, and even non-migrants. There's a lot of people, as I've said, in Australia that are really, really working towards championing diversity and inclusion. But thinking about the niche a little bit, which is the creative industries, that obviously involves everything that has to do with art, with music, with advertisement, with marketing, with design, with performance, theater, even cooks and so on, like food, gastronomy, sports. The creative industries is an umbrella that sort of like gathers very, very diverse, like many industries. That's why it's so broad, but that's the very interesting thing. And it's about intersectionality and like transcending, transcending a lot of disciplines and a lot of skill sets. And I think what I want, even though this particular project is very focused on migrant creatives, it's what I've been calling them. I think when we speak about diversity and inclusion, there needs to be, you know, intersectionality, and there needs to be advocacy, not just for the migrant creatives, but also, you know, for members of LGBTQI community, also for disability, people who identify as people with disability, people who identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders as well. So, you know, there's lots of us that we share those barriers, especially in the creative industries as well, in the arts. So even though the main sort of like, say my main target audience or niche is the migrant creative, everyone can reach out, everyone can be welcome. I think everyone could be a little point across the network, and everyone could, you know, benefit, I hope, from the resources that I share.
I love it. I love it specifically because I think we have a huge community, artistic community with in general, migrants community, and specifically like Latin community. We have awesome people who paint, who make music, who do some specific kind of craft, or sometimes they do like typical things from our countries. Some people just do experimental art. So yeah, we need this space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I love, so your time in pandemic, it's been divided with your current work. I don't want to forget this point because I think it's very important. Can you tell us what is your current work? Because you also work in other areas.
Yeah, so my current job, I work as a social media marketer and communication manager for an art gallery. This art gallery is in Colombia, but the gallerists, they live in the United States, and the artists are like scattered around Latin America and the United States and somewhere in Europe. And I got this job maybe almost a year ago now. Oh my God, time flies. Almost a year ago. And it was because, you know, even though I live in Australia and I'm going to be here, I plan on being here for a while. I don't want to lose everything that I've built in Colombia, my network and my career and my connections. So that's something that's very important for me, because I do want to go back at some point, or at least I do want to just keep, you know, keep the doors open, to put it in a way. So I've always kept very in touch, and I've tried to be very aware of what's going on in Colombia in my industry, which in Colombia particularly is contemporary art and art organizations. So I've always been, you know, try to keep up to date, you know, talking to my friends, to my connections that are working in Colombia. And through one of them, who happens to be a really good friend of mine, you know, just part of my network, he invited me to come on board to this project. And I've been doing that job remotely from Australia for, almost a year. And, you know, it's fantastic because in a way it emotionally, like, it helps me so much, because it helps me like be connected to what I feel is like my successful career in Colombia and in Latin America. It helps me like stay relevant. It helps me, I've kept building my network, you know, and building my CV and like my name and everything that I do. So I think that's the biggest value. In terms of how my job works, I do get paid in Colombian pesos. And right now the Colombian, how do you say, the Colombian money, the Colombian currency is very devaluated. So if I was to convert that into Australian dollars for me to pay rent and live here, like, oh my gosh, it would be such a loss. So what I've been trying to do, I obviously sometimes have had times where I do have to, you know, get some of that money, but luckily I've been able to, and because I've been doing, while I was doing this job, I was working at the Mexican restaurant. So I was sort of like living with the money of the Mexican restaurant, and then everything that I make from my marketing job, it's been building up a little, fund in Colombia that I could
Saving.
eventually invest or go back to when I go visit my family or support my family. Even throughout the pandemic, it's been really hard times. I also, because of my master's degree, I have a very high debt in Colombia that I started to pay this month. So I'm using that money to pay, my monthly repayments. So it's been really good. And I think it's also opened my mind to the idea that, especially with the pandemic, working remotely, it's become such an easy thing. And there are so many tools, and it's a matter of getting organized and really time managing and understanding how time difference works. But I think that we don't need to limit ourselves to just, even though I live in Melbourne, Australia, I don't have a job here right now. Like, the job that has to do with my industry is abroad. And funnily enough, last week or the week before, I had 2 interviews for jobs in Australia, that my main professional experience that I was showing for it was this job that I do remotely. And they were quite impressed because of that. And well, I didn't get the job, but it was
It's
already
okay.
such a big step. And I felt really proud to show, that I was a person able to work remotely, to manage all these accounts, to work with teams that are in different parts of the world. So, like, don't limit yourself just to think that the job needs to be necessarily where you're sitting in your physical space. Like,
I
today, the doors can open in so many different directions.
Yeah, I love this point because I want to ask you recommendations for migrants, skilled migrants, and they are living, well, maybe in Australia or around the world. And this is a really good point because sometimes people get frustrated because they cannot work in their areas, in their current country where they're living. But what happens if we keep this relationship and network with well, our countries, in my case Chile, um, but it works so much because still you can use it in your city and demonstrate your skills, and you still with all this knowledge fresh in your mind. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's an amazing point to recommend to another migrants. Keep
Yeah, and in all honesty, we, seeing how the world has been lately, like, we never know when we might be forced to go back home or to relocate somewhere else. And for you to keep building, just because you move to another country, like, just don't forget about everything that you've already built in your country, because that has a lot of value, and that it's going to help you, and it's going to help you still grow. It's going to, be something that you can show up for yourself to potentially new employers. I've come to realize it's a very important thing, and skill that you can have, time managing and building a network. Like, that's my number one tip is, and this is something that I'm very, like, obsessed with, and I understand that the word networking is very daunting, and we might think of networking and, like, attending a meeting where no one knows each other, and you have your name tag and you're like awkwardly in the corner, asking, like, who do I talk to? I've been in that situation. But I think that, you really, networking is the number one thing that is going to help you, especially when you are new to a country. You have to get to know, like, the organizations or businesses in your particular industry that really interest you. Go to the About Us section and learn who are the people that work there, read about them, maybe connect to them through LinkedIn, attend their events, even online or in person. And really just don't be afraid to reach out and say, like, hi, I'm new here. This is my experience. I'm really interested in what you've done. Is it possible to have a 15-minute call so I can pick your brain? Or I did it when I first came. I went and had so many coffees with a lot of Australians that actually, and I was quite impressed. I was like, oh my God, they said yes. Like, now I have to meet them. Like, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? And everyone, you'll be so surprised how people are a lot more open that we give them credit for. So much more. So when you really see someone, you know, that interests you, that you resonate with something that they said, that you like where they work, just never be afraid to reach out. And it's happened to me lately. No, I've been doing this for about a year and a half, but now, for example, every time that I apply for a job, even before sending my application or working in my application, I always call or send an email, whichever. And then I ask firstly if they hire people on temporary visa holders or if the position is only available for permanent residents, because you would be surprised like how many times they'll say, no, it's actually just for permanent residents. So you don't waste your time and your energy. You're like, okay, thank you, bye. And then sometimes they'll say, yeah, we are open, but like, how long is your visa for? And then you say, oh, 2 years, and say, yeah, by all means apply. If you say, oh, I'm a student, they'll say, oh, sorry, we're not hiring students. And then that saves you a lot of time. Like, people are very helpful. Talk to people, that's, try to make connections like that. I think is the key to really finding opportunities. You have to look for them, you have to be open, and you have to let the people around you know what you're doing, know that you're looking for a job, know that this is what I've done, this is where I've been, just in casual conversations, because you don't know when a friend or an acquaintance or someone might recommend you for something. And just call and say, oh, actually, I know this person that, she's a journalist, like she's from Chile, she's lovely, I met her through this, I think that she might be a great fit for this job. Or send you jobs and say, hey, Jimena Luz, I saw this job at Twitter, they're looking for a Spanish-speaking journalist. There you go.
Yeah, it's so true. Sometimes our sin is being silent, and our other sin is to think that the current work define us.
Yeah.
So this is totally wrong. Totally wrong. We have to believe in ourselves, believe in our background, in our career, in our passions, and in our dreams.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
where the people can find you?
Yeah, so across the network, we have a LinkedIn account and also an Instagram account. That's just the two platforms that we have at the moment, and also a newsletter where I'm doing a similar thing to what we're doing right now, which is interviewing migrant creatives, asking about their experience, the suggestions, the tips, etc. So you can subscribe to the newsletter, and you can find all the links through at Across the Network on those platforms. And then I'm more than happy if anyone ever like resonates with everything that I said, wants to talk to me further. I'm happy for Jimena to share my email and my LinkedIn or contact details, and just help each other. This is what we're here for.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for your time, for all this wisdom, and well, hopefully we're going to meet in person soon when all this lockdown period finished. But
awesome.
I'm surprised and glad to meet you, and we have so many things in common, so maybe we should build some projects together. But at least Across the Network and Skilled Migrants Collective will be here in this platform, trying to inspire others and also humanize migration. So thank you for your time, and have a good rest of the week.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.